Hey Judy, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you, Dennis?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? All right.
Doing well. I'm sorry I missed Monday's class. I can't wait to see the recording of it. My sister came up from Florida, and so we all went to Biltmore. So,
Sweet. That's great. That's a great place.
yeah,
It's really remarkable when you think about how long ago it was built and just how incredible it is. It really is amazing.
I know the running water and electricity and heavens, even a swimming pool and bowling alley, for heaven's sakes,
It's
and the
it,
artwork in there. Wow.
yeah, and the sheer size of it, it's just I don't know. It's a remarkable place.
It really is. She had never been in there before. So, and it was all decked out for Christmas. So,
Oh, really? Already? Wow.
yes, I know. I was surprised, but yeah, a Christmas tree in every room and it was gorgeous.
Gosh. I'll tell you a story about a mansion that was near where I lived in Virginia, south of Charlottesville.
Mhm.
Um, just random. This guy who was from that area, is a very rural county, Nelson County, Virginia, and he made it big on Wall Street back in the day. So he came back and built this giant mansion really in the middle of nowhere. But the thing that was most interesting about it is he had all the external walls covered in copper.
Copper.
And then he had an external layer that looked like regular concrete or whatever. So it was basically like an opening between the wall and the copper. And he would have servants dump ice down there to cool the house.
Oh, you're kidding. And what year was this approximately?
Gosh, I think it was in the 1840s or 50s or something like that. Long time ago. I may be off on the date, but it was a long time ago, and apparently it was considered the first air-conditioned house.
Well, yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's incredibly smart. I mean, and I guess they just simply had a way as the ice melted for it to
yeah, it just ran
drain
out.
out.
Yeah, and they had a giant ice house on the facility, so they made a lot of their ice. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if there was some way they could make that serviceable to heat it in the winter. I guess he was mainly concerned about staying cool, I guess.
Yeah, I think they were able to heat it, traditionally, I would imagine with fireplaces and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. But anyway, his name was great name. His name was Thomas Fortune.
Thomas Fortune. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was his name, and it's really, even to this day, it's still a magnificent place, even though it doesn't have the support of something like Biltmore. It actually was bought, believe it or not, by a family that is one of the largest trash company owners in Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And they don't have that kind of money, but they tried, and there's a few parts of it that are still pretty. The main house itself is still pretty nice. I haven't been there in 10 years or more, so who knows now. But they would rent out the big house for events like charity events or whatever. Yeah, we're talking about blowout houses. Judy had been to the Biltmore last week or this week, and was talking about how beautiful it was, and they have Christmas trees up in every room and all that kind of stuff. And I was telling her about a house where I lived in Virginia, south of Charlottesville, that is a gigantic house, but it doesn't have the staying power of the Biltmore estate. But this guy built this house. He had walked out of the county dead broke when he was a young man, went to Wall Street, made millions, became the richest guy in the United States at one point, came back and built a gigantic mansion in this place. And the external walls of the house were covered in copper. And then they had a layer of a stone or brick or whatever in front of him. And he would have his workers dump ice down the copper to air condition the house in the summer. That was the first air conditioned house in America, apparently. Kind of interesting. So
Fascinating. I wonder where he even got the idea to do that.
if I had to bet, almost everything in those days came from Europe. So probably somebody in Europe did something similar, and he probably copied it. Is my guess. Not sure. So, yeah, he was. I've read a little bit about him. He's kind of an interesting guy. He invented something. I can't remember what it was. Some. I think it may have been a farm implement or something like that. The guy Mccormick, who invented, I think, the first maybe the first row thing that you plant crops with or something. He did something to Mccormick. I think it's called the Mccormick Reaper or something like that. They were actually neighbors, so I think they were maybe in cahoots with dreaming up stuff for farming. I'm not quite sure. So, all right. Well, welcome everybody. Hey, Sana. Hey, Kym. How are you? Allison?
Doing good.
Everybody's good, far as we know.
All right. Well, I'm full of candy. I ate too much of Kym's candy that he sent me. Damn you, Kym. Somebody had to do it.
Somebody had to do it. You're right.
I had the best intentions, like, oh, I'll save this for Thanksgiving. And my wife is very disciplined. She is really good. And between the two of us, we pretty much ate all the stuff you sent us. So, there you go. At least it was.
Well, I hope you. Yeah, good deal.
Yeah, my favorite were the pecans. The pecans were really good, and I like the cashews also. So no complaints from me. I'm fat, dumb, and happy, as they say.
I love the jalapeno ones. It was actually spicy, and I really, really enjoyed it. And you are now responsible for ruining my diet, Kym. I tried to do low sugar diet, but now I've been binging on sugar ever since I got those bags. But it was just so good. I was going to give it to my dad, but I didn't save any for him.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I do have a show coming up on Black Friday, so I'm just going to throw that out there, just in case y'all have nothing better to do.
Kym, I think we've come up with a tagline for your business and all of this, and I think it's called "Don't Blame Me."
Don't blame. Yeah, absolutely. I'm writing that down.
I think that people go, why does it say "Don't blame me"? I said, well, when you try it, you'll see why.
Well, I had a meeting this morning with one of my accounts, and he told me, he said, I don't know why in the world your little bags don't have "This is a wish bag" on there. He said, because once you open it, he said, you wished you got the big one. He said, you really need to get it on there. I'm telling you. So yeah, we'll figure it out. That's
wonderful. Yeah. Well, those are all good sentiments. When people, this time of year, I think I'm a little bit less disciplined when it comes to goodies, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. So it fits in with the overall game plan. Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about being more productive and getting more things done. And I think especially as everybody gets super busy this time of year, I thought this was a pretty good thing. So we're going to watch the Techstars stuff on this, and we'll at the end we'll talk about it, and also anything else that you all want to talk about. If you want to talk about the shopper roll day or any of that kind of stuff, we can talk about that as well. So with that, we'll go to share screen, and this might even work, right? Okay.
David, thanks for joining us today to talk about productivity and some of the systems that you use.
Oh, it's great to be here. I feel like I've learned a few tips and tricks over the years, and I'm happy to share it with everybody.
For those who don't know, you're definitely well known around the network for your focus on productivity and the systems that you've built and how well they work. And I really want to share those with entrepreneurs so they can learn from your experience.
Yeah, happy to share. And I think maybe the thing I want to point out there is that's not something that comes naturally to me. It's not something that I had earlier in life or earlier in my career. It was just a thing that I learned that I could do more business or do better business that way. And I sort of forced myself to do it and have seen the results of it. And so it's become ingrained, but it's not something that you're born with. So don't worry about it. If you feel like, well, I'm not an organized person, you too can become one.
So let's talk about that transition from sort of, as you described, sort of not organized. What was the why behind it? Why did you choose? Did you wake up one day and say, I have to be more organized? What's the why behind it?
You know, I don't remember a moment where I woke up. I think it was a little bit, bit by bit over time. But it's sort of the realization that dawned on me somewhere along the way that investing a little time and thinking about how to be organized has a tremendous payoff. And so the counterintuitive thing there is, would you spend an hour to try to save a minute? And the obvious answer to that is, well, of course not. That's not a good use of time. But if you save a minute every single day, it's a 2-month ROI. Mm-hmm. And so why wouldn't you spend an hour if you're going to save a minute every day for the rest of your life? And I think it's the realization over time that that really does happen, that you really can save a minute here and a minute there, and it adds up and it makes a meaningful impact on how much that you can get done, that motivates you to spend the next hour and the next hour after that finding other ways to become more efficient.
And do you find that some minutes are worth more in savings than others?
Yes. I mean, I think if it's an hour to invest a minute one time, lifetime, mm-hmm. that's a terrible ROI. And so you want to focus on the things that you're doing often every day, so that maybe ideally it's 1 minute every hour. Mm-hmm. If it's a minute a week, the ROI is going to be a lot longer. And so thinking about the frequency that you're going to, of the task that you're going to save time on matters a lot.
If you think about the systems that you have, and we'll dive into them here and you'll show us some of your systems. Let's say things get super stressful and you holding on to like one part of the system. Is there kind of a bedrock part of your system that if you don't do that part, everything else kind of feels like it starts to fall apart?
Yeah, I mean, I probably have a couple of ways to answer that question. You know, everybody is surprised by me because I say I get to inbox zero every single day, and I do. And so sort of managing that inbox down is kind of my bedrock. But at the same time, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it when we get into the details, tasks to me is an integral part of the system. And making sure that you sort of have an organized task list, and we can talk more about what that means, I think is really important as well. So maybe let me segue a bit, if that's okay, into how I process my email. Mm-hmm. Because I think most people, we just sort of get buried in our inbox and stuff floats down. And, you know, if you looked at the oldest item in your inbox, you might be a little embarrassed how long it took you to get back to somebody. I don't let that happen. And the biggest thing I do to not let that happen is I process email as much as I can, oldest to newest. If I have a big long list of unreads that I haven't looked at, yeah, I'll do a scan. I'll see what's super urgent. I'll try to answer, or, you know, easy to answer, and try to do those quickly. But fundamentally, at some point every day, I'm going to go into my oldest email and I'm going to say what needs to be done with that, and then move my way up the list till I get to the most recent. And when you do that, you sort of ensure a, say, 24-hour turnaround. Mm-hmm. Because if you have the discipline to make sure that you're always doing the oldest, and you work your way up to inbox zero at some point every day, which is which is my goal, mm-hmm. that everybody knows that within 24 hours, you can get a response from me. And whoever's watching this video, shoot me an email. And I'm david.brown@techstars.com. And I think you'll see that I'll say hello back within 24 hours, I'll see it. So you just sort of start at the bottom and, here's an email from Sabrina that's talking about, compensation exceptions that we're doing for budgeting for end of year. And I looked at it earlier and I need to fill out this quick survey. So my normal process would be to read this email, to click on this survey and to do it. And once I've done it, I would hit archive on the email. And so, in fact, I filled out that survey already, so I'm just going to do that right away. So let me go to this next email, which is just an email from Testflight that's alerting me to the fact that I have an app that I'm testing on behalf of one of our portfolio companies, because it's the wonderful Boomerang app and they have a new iPhone version coming out, and I'm a big fan and a big user, and so I've been testing it out for them. And so there's a new version here that's available on the Testflight platform. And so now what do I need to do? Well, I stopped using their previous version because it had a couple of bugs that prevented me from using it. And so now I need to download this new version and test it for them again. That's not something that I'm going to do right now. I have to download it on my phone. I have to go into it. I have to remember what the bug was. I have to work on it. So this is a good example of one that I can just turn into a task. And so the way I do that is I just take that email and I forward it to Asana, which is just a contact that I've created that is the hard-coded email address in Asana that turns this into a task. And almost every task manager has something like that. And then the subject of the email will be, test Boomerang, and the content will be whatever I want it to say. So I can just type in the description here of whatever I want, and then that will create a task in Asana, and then I can go ahead and archive this email. Here's a alert from our ATS applicant tracking system about a candidate that I interviewed yesterday that I need to review. So I'll submit that review and then archive that email. Then there's an email about some details on who are members in our membership program. So I'll read that email and likely delete it. Then I have something from Culture Amp, which does our 360 surveys, that I've been alerted that somebody would like my feedback on them. So I will, again, do that and then archive the email. Or if it's going to require a lot of thought, I would forward it into the Asana contact so that it would create a task item, and then I could prioritize it along with everything else. So that oldest to newest really helps. Again, it doesn't have to be 100%. Sometimes you got to jump in and deal with the crisis. But the other thing, and I don't have the article handy. I wish I had kept it. There was a great article I read once that there's only a few things that you should do with email. One is it's junk, just delete it. The other is read it and doesn't need a response, so just read it and delete it. The third thing is read it, respond to it, and delete it. The fourth thing is read it, put it in your calendar, because it's a calendar, and delete it. The fifth thing is read it, put it in a note, Evernote or something, and delete it. And the last thing is turn it into a task. Because it's just too long to deal with real time, and delete it. And the point in that is every one of those ends with delete it. And there is nothing that comes in that you can't do one of those things.
Makes sense. And when you say delete, for those using Gmail, do you mean archive?
I mean archive. I use archive, and I don't use filters. I don't use labels. I find that to take too much time, right? To put it in save this or customer that or whatever. I archive 100% of everything. I never put anything to trash, so I shouldn't say delete. And if you sort of do that and you do it oldest to newest, email is not so overwhelming that the email doesn't sort of linger in your inbox forever while you're pondering whether you'll have a better answer for the thing tomorrow than you did today. And I started using the analogy, email in your inbox is not like wine. It doesn't get better with time. It's more like cheese. You might, the answer that you give the person that asks you the question tomorrow is going to be the same probably as the one you give today. So why not give it today and get it out of your inbox and help them unblock whatever their blocker was that caused them to ask you the question in the first place.
And what are some of your heuristics, that kind of fine line? I know for me, one of the things that always sort of gets me in that kind of 5 different ways of dealing with email is, knowing the line between what should I reply to now versus, wow, that's a task. I need to spend some more time on that.
Yeah, I think most people treat email like wine. If you really need to do research, you need to talk to a bunch of people to think about how to respond. You need to look up some things, or it's a 3-page answer to be really thoughtful. Then that can be a task because it's longer than is reasonable. Mm-hmm. If you just have the feeling that you wish you had a better answer but you don't, well, you're not going to have it. That's the wine one, right? It's not going to be better tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so you might as well respond. But either respond or put it to task. There's no middle ground there.
And when you put it to task, do you also respond to let somebody know, hey, I'm on this,
yes.
but I'm not going to be right back to you?
Yeah, give me a week. I need to do some research. I got your email, but I'm on the road and I need till the end of the month. And then put that commitment date into the task as a due date, and then note it in the comments if that's helpful for you to remember so that you can actually meet your commitments. People are good with that.
Mm-hmm. And then as you think about emails kind of coming in, let's say over a holiday break or the weekend or something, I know many people almost dread vacation because they think, I'm going to just come back to this blizzard of email.
Yeah.
So with your inbox zero philosophy, and let's say you take a week off, how do you manage the week off, and then how do you manage your time when you come back?
It's a good question. So my inbox zero rule does not apply when I'm on vacation. I take my vacations off the grid, more than a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in some cases. My family and I love to travel, and I travel without a laptop. And I don't check email while I'm gone. I turn it off on my phone. And I give somebody an emergency contact information so that if the place is on fire, they can contact me. And I would say that has almost never happened in my years of doing that it was such an emergency that somebody contacted me. And so, yes, I do come back to a lot of email. And I don't use the method that I know a lot of people use, which is I'm not going to get to your email, put an autoresponder on, I'm going to archive my whole inbox the minute I get back. I don't do that because I feel like it disconnects me from what's going on in the business. But what I do is, we traveled to Europe this summer, was gone for 3 weeks. I come back on a Saturday, and I make Sunday a work day. And it's kind of a brutal day, but I've just had 3 weeks off, and it's an opportunity for me to go through my inbox and make my tasks and prioritize my things so that I can walk into the office Monday morning feeling reasonably caught up. And then while I'm gone, I put on an autoresponder that says I'm out and not to expect me to respond until whatever date that I'm back.
Can you show us how you use tasks, how you think about organizing them, how they help you kind of keep your world together?
Yeah, you bet. And I've recently transitioned from Wunderlist to Asana. And in Asana, I organize my tasks, which is the way Asana works, between today, which means today, and upcoming, which means in the next few days. I think of it as a week or so, and later, which is sometime after that. And so all of the tasks are in one of those 3 sections. And the most important section there is the Today view. So on my screen here, this is Asana. And what you can see is I have my Today view with all my tasks for today. Now I've taken the standard Asana Today view and I've added sections in there for urgent, normal, and tonight. Urgent, hopefully there's not too many of those, but if there's something I really want to pop to the top and make sure I don't forget to do, I'll put that in the urgent section. And if there's something for tonight that I might do at the end of the day, maybe it's remember to pick up groceries on the way home, for example, I'll put that down in the tonight section. But usually most of my things are in the normal section. And so you can see here today I have 6 items in the normal, which is sort of a good place for it to be. And they're ordered. So I have things like read an article, send out a thank you email to some associates, write a blog post on an upcoming partnership that we'll be announcing soon with Net Capital, and sort of, on down the list. In some cases, they have tags and are assigned to other people because, or they have labels of other people because I want to talk to them as well. But because they're in the Today view, that means to me that there's something for me to do today.
Do you hold time or reserve time in your day that is specifically focused on getting your most important task done before you kind of let the rest of the world in?
I do, and I have a calendar that will be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day, completely filled with meetings if I let it. And so I purposely block off specific times to have time to do tasks or email. I like to have a few half-hour blocks, one in, say, late morning, one in the early afternoon, and one at end of day. And the end of day allows me to have a clear mind so that I can go home and have dinner with my family and not feel like I have all these outstanding things that I didn't get done. That's why I do it that one end of day. Okay. I think the other important thing is, I mentioned the Today view, but every couple of days you got to go to the upcoming view and see what do you want to drag into today. What things have you said, well, I can do that in a few days that you haven't got to, and it's been a few days. And so I have the discipline to every 2 days, at the very longest, don't go more than 2 days without taking tasks from the upcoming and dragging them into today. So maybe let's walk through a couple of them.
Yeah.
Read Forbes article, I can click on that. And what Asana will do here is open up a side view, and I can actually see the article that I wanted to read and click on it and read it.
And how did that get into your task management?
At some point, somebody forwarded it to me and said, you should read this. And I found it interesting enough that I forwarded it into Asana, and I'll show you how that works, that created this task. So once that's done, I'll click complete. Sending an email out to associates is something that I want to do, so I have to compose that email. Once that's done, I'll mark that complete, and sort of on down the list like that. But as you can see, there's a manageable number of tasks here, 6 things that I'm thinking about today. I may or may not get to them. I don't get to all my today tasks every day, and they automatically will roll over and become today tasks tomorrow. And as we talked about, there are these other sections down below called upcoming and later, which currently I just have collapsed down. But if I open up upcoming, you can see that there's a number of tasks that are coming up that I want to think about in the next week or so. Not a huge number, but a reasonable number. And then similarly in later, there's an even larger number of tasks that are somewhere in my later folder that kind of go on. And if you look at them all, it's a little bit depressing how many there are. But as we talked about for the workflow, I will review that upcoming folder maybe every couple of days to see if there's tasks I need to pull into today. Certainly I would do it if my Today view got empty. And then the later, I just look at once a week. I have a task that pops up once a week that says look at later. And it takes 10 minutes to go through all of them and say, wow, that thing has been lingering too long. Let me up its priority. But other than that, it remains collapsed here. And in my normal working day, I don't have the anxiety of the 300 tasks maybe that are sort of hidden behind upcoming and later. I just have the 6 things I want to get done today. And it lowers the anxiety and it makes the day much more manageable. So that's how I think about tasks. And then I think about them being ordered top to bottom. And so if I get a free half hour, what do? I don't go to my email. I go to my tasks. I look at my Today view. I look at what that top task is, and I do that. And if I can't do that for some reason, I don't have enough information, I need something else, well, then it probably wasn't a well-defined task in the beginning. I should have defined it as go get that information. And so I might adjust that. So reviewing the order of today and drawing future tasks in, and then in the later view, which again are things that are a week or beyond, I look at that once every week or two and just review, is there anything there that really needs my attention?
And how do you coordinate or collaborate with other executives or other team members around sort of organizing or checking in on your tasks?
Yeah, I think it's hard to impose your system on other people, right? If I could, or if I chose to do that, Asana has tons of great tools that allow you to assign it to somebody else, to follow somebody else's tasks, to have shared projects, to comment within individual tasks so you can see where you're going, what's going on a particular task or a particular project. Some people do that. It's very effective if you do, because then everybody's in the same workspace. But I've never chosen to impose that on the people that I work with. They may work in other tools, and so this is a standalone list. But in certain cases, some of the people that I work with, because I know that they're in Asana and they operate much the same way as I do, I will assign them tasks. We'll comment back and forth, but it's sort of a case-by-case basis. Let me maybe show one other quick thing, is that I have all of these saved searches down the side of tasks that I've assigned to that I've tagged with people. And so the next time I talk to Jenny or Sabrina or Katie or Nicole, I'll click on those and it will just show me the tasks that have their label assigned. Whether that's in my today view or in my later view, it doesn't matter, but it's the thing that I'll go to every time I have a one-on-one so that I can see all tasks that are related to that person.
Excellent. So it sounds like your task manager is the kind of the center, the heartbeat of this system. Email either getting triaged or flowing into that task management system.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I can't emphasize that enough, because so many people say task managers are where emails go to die, and that's what happens when you treat your task manager as secondary, right? If you treat it as, well, I'll go there if I run out of email and I'm looking for something to do, we don't run out of email. And so you wind up working on the things that come into your email rather than the things that are important. And don't let your email be a to-do list that anybody can add things into. Rather have your to-do list prioritize the things that you want to work on.
Excellent. Are there other techniques you have to kind of guard your time, guard your attention, either in email or how you think about your task manager?
Well, I mean, I do think so much of it revolves around having a clear head and reducing the anxiety of how much you have to do. And so keeping that list in the task manager short and getting into email at whatever the right cadence is often enough so that it doesn't feel like there's hundreds and hundreds of emails that have been lingering there that you have to do something with is important. And then keeping the task manager ordered so that you do the read for article before you talk to the associates is a good technique. And if you decide to send out the thank you to the associates first, just do this first and move it up to the first in the list, right? And it just trains you to get used to that you're working on the things in the order that you decided that you're going to do them, rather than letting things happen to you. And that's what makes all the difference.
And when you first started making this shift to your task manager being at the center, what were some of the ways that you worked on reinforcing the habit? Because now it's pretty clear it's a habit. But for those where it's not a habit yet, how did you ingrain it as a habit for yourself?
It does take time, and it takes discipline, and I would not describe myself as sort of naturally disciplined or naturally organized. And so it takes a certain amount of time of forcing yourself to do it. So maybe say, I'm going to give it 30 days of doing this, and I won't give up, no matter what, for 30 days, so that at the end of 30 days, it's become ingrained. Otherwise, it's like getting up early in the morning to go to the gym. You sort of forget about it too quickly and it falls by the wayside. After 30 days, you start to see the benefit of it, and that becomes reinforcing.
So it sounds like your task manager
Okay. So one of the things that I've noticed over the years, as I've worked with different people, I've noticed that people who really seem to be organized and to get things done, almost all of them use something like Asana. Asana is the name of the software. and there are other tools out there, but it has been interesting to me that almost every time that's what they use. And rather than managing from their email inbox, they're managing from their tasks. So I don't know if anybody here wants to comment on that or their experience with that kind of thing. I'd throw the door open. Anybody?
There was a time in which I was leading a team of like 10 or 11 people, and I found Asana, and I actually used something called GitHub Projects, it's a very similar kind of thing, to be super useful in kind of organizing that many people. Now that the team is a bit smaller and like kind of more dispersed in terms of workloads, I actually have just started putting things on my calendar. So if someone tells me to do something, I'll estimate the time it takes, and I'll block off that time right on my calendar. And that's useful because it forced me to kind of be honest with myself. You know, how much time do I really think this task will take, and when is it reasonable to get back to this person by?
Yeah, what calendar do you use? Is it built into your Gmail or your Outlook or?
Yeah, I just use Google Calendar, and I have like an extension that helps me make events from emails to stuff quickly.
Okay, cool. Anyone else?
It's also worth mentioning that I did build a product that helps you make calendar events from text.
Oh, cool. Well, if you wanted to make that available to the group, I'm sure that, you know, you would be appreciated.
That is who's down. That is the product.
Oh, okay. Got it. Kime, go ahead. Sorry.
Does anybody use this Asana currently or have any experience with it?
I've used it for years. I love it. You know, I know there are other tools out there, but everyone I know that I mentioned to you that I respect for their ability to stay organized, they seem to use Asana. I know there are other ones, but that's a pretty common theme that I run across personally. I'm currently with this running this accelerator. I haven't really transitioned to using Asana yet because ECU has a completely different system that I'm used to using. So I've tried to figure out how to bridge the ECU system with my own. I have not figured that out yet, but I will at some point.
Is it subscription based? How does that work?
As I haven't looked at it in a really long time, but I'm sure they have a free version and then a paid version, depending on, you know, how much you need. So I would look into it, and I would put, you know, in Google what's like Asana, and you probably see a whole long list of tools. But the key point there, you know, kind of going back to, you know, what is your why? Why are you doing this? You know, this guy basically starts at his task manager instead of his email. You know, most people start at their email every day and constantly, you know, look through their email if you're not looking through Facebook or some other social media. But, you know, the idea of having this kind of central place to stay organized like Asana, which does work well with Google product, like Google Calendar and so forth, makes good sense to me. But, you know, maybe some others here have different experiences.
I've just never used a task manager before, and it's clearly something that I need. So I guess I probably need one that's for beginners.
Well, I think they're all pretty rudimentary. I mean, once you start, and Arjun could comment on this, but once you start building macros and rules and all that kind of stuff, that's a whole different level, which I personally have never felt the need to go that far. You know, I think just putting stuff down on a list and being able to reorder them, put them there. But the real issue is having the discipline to do it. You know, just like he said, you know, task managers where emails go to die. That's true. You know, for a lot of people, they it's in there and I'll get to it someday. That's just a lack of commitment to what you're doing. And if you look at this as a way of getting to your why, recognizing your why, then maybe you have a little more motivation to put in. You know, he used the term 30 days. I think you could get used to it in about 10 days, personally. A couple weeks of using it, particularly when it's available on your phone and your computer. I tend to do a lot more stuff on my phone than on my computer at this point. So, you know, I keep telling myself, and I'll probably do it over the Christmas holidays, ECU because they're a university, they have all kinds of security rules and things that you can't do. And I'm also an odd duck in that I'm not really I'm not an ECU employee per se. I'm on a grant, so I don't have access to certain things. So it's kind of a pain. So I'm constantly dealing with inbound from ECU and inbound from Accelerate Rural and God knows what else. So I'm not a good example of somebody who's figured this out, but I do know just a ton of people that use Asana for what that's worth. Okay, so I'm going to try something tomorrow, and I'm warning you in advance, it may not work. We're going to try something using a tool I've been working on called StreamYard. And what we're going to do is I'm going to attempt to get you all into an invite-only TikTok business conference that I'm part of. And I tried doing it last semester or whatever with Zoom, and it didn't work at all. So I'm going to attempt tomorrow to use StreamYard. So if you go to the Accelerate Rural YouTube page or the Accelerate Rural Facebook community, I'll be streaming live from both those locations at the same time. And I'm going to attempt to get us all into this TikTok event, which is specifically aimed at small businesses. It's really fantastic. I can't record it. I've tried a lot of different ways to get this to you all. But tomorrow we're going to try this. I can't practice it because the event is not live, but I'm going to do my best to, StreamYard is something that is browser-based. It's not software-based. So I'm hoping I'll be able to stream what's on my screen to both YouTube and to our Facebook group. So if that doesn't work, I'll come on and say, forget it. And we'll finish up this section on productivity. But I just got this invite in, and I'd really like to share it with you all because I think TikTok is somewhat of a mystery to most of us. And there's actually some very interesting opportunities for small business there. And I want to try to share that with the group if I possibly can. So just fair warning, you could be Grant might send out a weird email with a totally different URL, but my Asana list for this afternoon is figure out StreamYard. That's what I'll be working on. So any other thoughts or questions about a Shop Rural Day or any of that live commerce that anybody wants to talk about?
Hey, Dennis, do you have paid subscription of StreamYard, or are you on the free plan?
I'm on the free plan right now because I want to learn how to use it first, but I'm sure I'll do the paid if I figure it out because I really like the idea of doing, go to multiple locations at once instead of just one. So that's.
I was looking at their membership plan, and I mean, it was just a brief look, but what I understood was that on the free plan, you are able to live stream on like 3 or 4 platforms, but not at once. It's the next level up. I think the $20 plan per month. That's the one that allows you to stream at multiple platforms at the same time.
Okay.
So just maybe that's why I wasn't able to work. Just take a look into that.
Okay, I will. There's another program called Restream that's a competitor with StreamYard, RES Stream, and they also have the multi. So I'm going to look at that as well and see what makes sense. They kind of compete with each other, and I've been trying to figure out the pros and cons. But thanks for pointing that out. That saved me some time. Appreciate it.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
He mentioned in the video a boomerang app and Testflight. Is that something that's just relevant to like him and his industry, or is that something that we should all kind of look into?
I use Boomerang religiously on my Gmail account. So that's an app that you get for your Gmail. And I think there's a free version and a paid version. What it does, it gives you the ability to basically send emails on a scheduled basis in the future. So if someone says, follow up with me in 2 weeks, you can tag that email and it will actually go in 2 weeks. So Boomerang I've been using for years, as long as I can remember. So that's a tool. Testflight is an Apple program. If you're an Apple app developer, Testflight is how you test your app before it goes live on the App Store. So you won't really have to worry about that unless you're building apps on the App Store. Sometimes people who are building apps will ask you to test out their app. So I've done a fair amount of testing for people on that, but it's really nothing more than kind of a staging area for apps that are planned to go live at some point. But I love Boomerang. I think it's a really cool service. The other thing I found, like over the years ago, using Outlook in a corporate environment, you know, it looks like it has a lot of features, but it seemed like so often they didn't work. And I didn't know if it was the corporation putting some kind of limit on certain features. I never knew, you know, what the reason why certain things didn't work. But I like the fact that Gmail, I can find everything. I can search for it. I can save it. It connects with Google Drive, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm a big fan of Gmail. So acceleraterural.org is actually a Google workspace. So it's like Gmail, but it's a Google workspace that is its own thing. Again, if you use ECU, there's lots of rules about what you can store and what you can forward and all kinds of stuff because of state regulations and state laws and so forth. So the Google workspace I use is what I run acceleraterural.org on. So anyone else got anything you want to talk about? Okay, well, like I said, you may see some weird activity between now and tomorrow, so don't worry. It's just an attempt to get everybody into the TikTok business, small business event. And if it doesn't work, we'll finish up on this segment that we started today. So, by the way, the guy that's being interviewed is the #2 guy at Techstars. So he is a very well-known entrepreneur, even though you may not know his name. He's a very accomplished senior leader for really the largest accelerator in the whole world at this point. Their portfolio companies now have exceeded 30 billion in market value, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So he's pretty busy. He's busier than I am. So I thought it would be helpful to hear kind of what he does. But that's all I have for today. So thank you all. One last thing. Sorry, before I let you go. I am working on the possibility of doing some more live events. I don't know if it will be with Pop Shop Live or someone else. A few little issues with Pop Shop Live. Some of you have had some of you haven't. But one of the things is I'd like to try some different audiences, if we can figure out a way to reach audiences that maybe match up a little bit more with us and what we're doing. I think the Pop Shop Live crowd was very young and very West Coast, which is fine. But if I can find an audience that is more specialty food, more gourmet, gifting type stuff, I want to try to see if I can plug us into something like that as well. It will be a very similar kind of process, but I don't know that it'll necessarily, I hope it can be Pop Shop Live because we've all learned how to use it, but I'm not sure I can get these other audiences into that platform. So we'll see. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.